Welcome to Math 115, Business Calculus. Here is the list of items that I will be going over, orienting you to the class. I'm not going to go ahead and read all of these, but this is also provided as a handout and you can go back and review it as needed. So the first question is, what is business calculus? And it's the study of rates of change that allow you to answer questions such as, how fast is my profit increasing? What price should I charge to maximize my revenue? How do I minimize my costs? How much money will I make if I sell one more item? It's not always the amount you charge. Also, what happens if I increase the price by $1? $1 when you're charging $10 versus $1 when you're charging $20 can have a surprisingly different impact. So how are you going to learn all of this material? I've divided your time spent into 3 portions. The first column on the left is your large lecture. This is where twice a week you will be meeting with your professor for 50 minutes in a Zoom session, and you will be completing your lecture notes, taking your exams, and your final exam. And we'll talk more about all these details in a few minutes. Another portion of this class is where once a week you'll be attending activity session for 2 hours. You'll be doing group work and taking quizzes. And the third time spent for this class is the column on the right, which is your time outside of class. The college rule of thumb is that for every 1 unit of class time, you should be spending 2 hours outside of class learning and preparing the material. So for our 3-unit course, it's about 6 hours a week. This is where you will complete ALEKS, your online homework, your offline homework, and study for your quizzes and exams. Also, this class provides an optional but highly recommended Math 95 course. Also, only once a week for 2 hours, where you will be getting extra help you needed to pass this class, prepare for your homework, quizzes, and exams. This will be a small group of about 30 students, giving you the practice and support you need in addition to discussing study skills and giving you additional problems. Even if you aren't signed up, it's not too late to enroll in this 1-unit credit, no credit course. Check the class schedule, and there's also information listed in the orientation portion of Beachboard. Here is a snapshot of the first 6 weeks of your class calendar. The full calendar is listed in Beachboard. As you can see on the far left side, the gray column tells you for each week whether you'll be taking a quiz, which will be an activity, and which section it's on. You'll notice week 5 and 6 don't list quizzes, but if you read across row week 5, in green, it lets you know that you will be taking your exam in lecture, not activity, that week, and which sections are on your exam. If you look at the far right column, Sunday, and also Thursday, in tan or whatever color that is, that's when your online homework is due. And as you can see, there's a few other assignments or holidays listed. Again, full calendar is available in Beachboard. So let's talk about more of the details of this class. You will be taking 3 midterms exams in your large lecture for a combined 40% of your grade. You will be taking quizzes in your activity sections for 15% of your grade. And at the end of the semester, you will have a cumulative final worth 28% of your grade, also taken in large lecture. WebAssign, which is your online homework due twice a week, Thursdays and Sundays, is worth 8% of your grade. Your activity participation, just showing up and participating with the instructor and fellow students, is worth 4% of your grade. ALEKS, which we'll talk about in a minute, is worth 3%. And then there's a few other little items that are worth 2% of your grade. So what do you need to purchase for this class? You will, number 1, need a course packet, which is the guided notes that you will be writing into during activity and large lecture. ALEKS, which is an online algebra remediation, really / calculus preparation software package. Many of you may already have ALEKS accounts, but this is separate. WebAssign, which is your online homework, and a non-graphing calculator, but whatever you have is probably fine, and I'll be going into more detail in each of these items. So what is ALEKS, if you weren't already familiar? It's basically that algebra program where you take an initial assessment, which is like a placement test, and it figures out what you already know and what you need to know. And then it gives you practice problems with guided support and examples so that you can master this new material. And it uses a PI method of demonstrating what you know and what you need to know. For those of you familiar with ALEKS, if you look at the bottom left of this slide, there are frequent knowledge checks, and it says which can set you back. What happens is after you've mastered a topic, you will be asked that topic again, few questions later. And if you haven't maintained that mastery knowledge, the topic goes back into your learning portion of the PI. That's why we say it's all about time management. Here are the deadlines for ALEKS and that contribute to your grading. So in week 1, by Saturday, the 28th, all you need to do is take your initial assessment. Whatever score you get, so long as you complete your initial assessment, gives you full credit. We highly encourage you to do as best you can on the initial assessment. It's easy to feel rushed for time and just hit, oh, I don't know, or give me the next problem. But the better you do on this week 1 initial assessment, the less work you will have in your upcoming weeks. You're also able to stop the assessment at any point, leave it, and come back. Just be sure to finish everything by Saturday the 28th at midnight. On Tuesday of week 3, you will have wanted to complete at least 70 topics. So 70 topics in your mastered or learned categories. Keep in mind, most students have more than 70 topics from their initial assessment and won't feel pressure for the September 7th deadline. By week 5, we want you to be up to 90 topics, unless you already were, in which case, even if you've dropped below 90 topics, you still get full credit for the Tuesday, September 21st deadline. Week 3 and week 5, actually in week 1, do not come with partial credit. You either need to hit those goals or not. But in week 7, Tuesday, October 5th, you want to have completed all 120 ALEKS topics. If you haven't completed all topics, we do give you proportional partial credit for the work you have completed, the number of topics you've either mastered or learned. Keep in mind, this package that you're purchasing is just under $40, but it's only good for 6 weeks. So long as you activate it the first or second day of class, on the 7th week, October 5th, you still have access. But anybody who turns on their ALEKS software sooner may have already expired their 6 weeks and not have access on Tuesday the 5th. We'll remind you of this as it gets closer. So what is WebAssign? This is your online homework where you're going to be practicing problems that you've learned in class that will prepare you for your quizzes and exams. As previously seen on the calendar, every Thursday and Sunday at midnight, you will have an assignment to have completed. If you do not complete some, any, or all of that assignment, then you have the first 2 days after the due date to continue working on your assignment, where any problem solved in that 2 days is worth 80% of its original value. So if there had been 10 problems and you only got through 9 of them by Thursday at midnight, you have all day Friday and all day Saturday to solve that 10th problem and end up with 98% for your grade. And lastly, I want to point out at the bottom, it says use this as a source to learn, not cheat to get it done. Keep in mind, we recognize that between math apps and students helping each other, it's easy to just type in the right answer, get full credit for your WebAssign, but the whole intention is to prepare you for the test. If you haven't done it yourself, you're very likely not going to be able to solve that problem on a quiz or a test. Also, even though an app will give you the right answer, we're grading your work on the quizzes and exams, and getting full credit on your homework may not prepare you for your quizzes or exams. The course packet. There is a visual of the cover on the left, and this is where there are pre-printed lecture notes that have portions missing or room for you to write out problems that you'll be solving. So what you'll be doing in large lecture and activity is following along with the instructor, filling in the blanks, and writing down the steps for a problem. There's even a couple problems that won't be solved in activity or large lecture where you'll be watching a video to fill in the notes. And the back of the packet includes offline homework, which is just an opportunity to pen and paper practice problems for quizzes and exams, and answers are provided on the last few pages. Are you repeating this class? Unfortunately, some students do need to take this class again. On the far bottom left with, I guess that's a shopping cart, some of you may not need to purchase WebAssign again, although this may be a small portion of students. If your first time ever taking business calculus at Cal State Long Beach was spring 21 and you purchased WebAssign for the first time, you do not need to purchase it again this semester. You have automatic access to the 7th edition of our textbook. Had you previously purchased WebAssign, it was for the 6th edition of the book, and you will need to purchase access again. In the middle of this slide, it mentions all students need to purchase ALEKS each semester. And on the right, in terms of a course packet, if you're repeating, that's really a personal decision. Do you want to have a fresh start and be writing into the course packet with nothing previously written down? Or do you want to have your old notes where you can just add stuff? And I forgot to mention before about the course packet, you can pick it up at the bookstore in person or have it mailed to your house. We also have a digital option available, which we are intending it to be so that you can upload it into a tablet and write onto that. We don't suggest you use that as a way to print and download the whole packet at home. It's like 150 pages. It's cheaper to get the printed packet through the bookstore. About the offline homework, this is at the back of that packet I just mentioned. This is where, again, you'll be writing pen and paper problems that will look similar to your online homework and the quizzes and exam questions. Some of the problems will even be completed during activity, but the assumption is anything that hasn't already been completed, you would be completing outside of class. As stated previously, the answers are in the back of the book, so you can check your answers, although not your steps. And other than the portions you're using in activity, this is not being graded. It is not collected. It does not count towards your grade, but it's essentially a practice test that prepares you for the quizzes and exams in the class. Activity. This is where once a week you will meet for 2 hours a day with an instructor, usually different from your lecture hall instructor, with only about 30 students. So your lecture hall could be anywhere from 130 to 150 students, but this is your small class setting. You'll be working in even smaller groups, usually in breakout rooms, where your activity leader will be guiding you in practicing the material. That will prepare you for your homework, your quizzes, your tests, reiterate the information you've learned from lecture, and it essentially prepares you to excel on those quizzes and exams. Also, quizzes will all be taken in activity. So let's talk about quizzes. The very first 20 minutes of any week indicating you have a quiz will be used for quiz time. You'll log into your activity section. It is Zoom proctored, so be sure to log into Zoom first. You will then have an exam that becomes available in Dropbox. It's blocked until your activity starts. The assumption is you will either print it out or you'll be reading the questions off of the screen and writing onto scratch paper. After roughly 20 minutes, your instructor will say it's time to stop taking your quiz and uploading your material. So we give you about 10 more minutes to scan your work and upload it back to Dropbox so that it can be graded. Your very first quiz is the second week of class based on the material you learned in activity, not large lecture, the first week of class. We will also have a video for anybody who needs to re-see that information. Your exams. These will not be taken in activity, but instead during your large lecture on Thursday of the exam weeks. Check the calendar for the exact dates. Large lecture usually lasts for 50 minutes, but we give you about 55 minutes to take the test. Again, you'll be logged into Zoom, and instead of in Dropbox, this time in the quizzes portion of Beachboard, you will have a digital quiz that you'll be taking, but the expectation is that you're solving your work on pen and paper and will be uploading that at the end of the exam. Many of your handwritten problems will be graded in addition to the automatically graded questions. Hopefully that covers everything, but if not, ask your large lecture instructor. They won't be going into this much detail on the first day of class, so feel free to re-listen to this if you need to.